Michael Hudlow back in the hot seat with the How to Not F Up series. So we're diving into AI and CRM, man. Welcome back to the show. How the heck are you?
Hey, thanks for having me, Wes. I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing very well. I remember when I finished up my first book and my first time I spoke with you, I already knew that I was starting to go down the path of writing this book. I just didn't know it would be the journey that it was to write. So it was different than the first one. The first one was very much based upon experiences in my case studies, and obviously, since it's AI related, this one had a lot more to do with interviewing people and discovering issues. But it's actually a very enjoyable book, and quite frankly, I took your advice. I didn't even tell you this, is that first book, which is
27 pages.
Yeah, man. And this one, you're like, cut it down. And so that's why this second book, I was shooting for 180 pages, but it ended up just being a tick over 200. So it's much more manageable.
Look, man, you got to put more pictures. Kids these days need pictures, man.
No, maybe they don't need books either. I don't know. But I hear you. I hear you. And actually, this one has not pictures, but it does have a few charts in there and what I would call one pagers, because the way the book is formatted is if you only have a few minutes, you can pick it up, and the first, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 pages is just like, hey, what do you have to do now? How do you do it? Where do you start? And then if you're interested, you keep reading the book, or you call me, one of the two, whatever you want.
Yeah. So how much did you use AI to write a book about AI? And is that cannibalism?
No. And I actually say that in the, you know what? It's funny because, so I did use it. Of course, I did it to help me determine, like, what are people asking? What are the relevant questions? And then from there, I develop questions to go out when I do my interviews with whoever would speak with me, whether it's CIOs or, or CEOs or CTOs, whomever it may be,
right?
And marketing people as well. And, so it's interesting for all you non-writers out there. Amazon themselves actually has a checkbox when you submit your book that says, did you use AI? And then they ask you what you used it for. Not sure what they're going to do with that, but that's what I did. And I even say in my foreword, I said it would be hypocritical of me to talk about AI and then say I'm not using it. Where I think the biggest thing I did with AI, quite frankly, is grammar checking. Wow, do I know no grammar? Because I thought I was going to get I use Grammarly. I thought I was going to get some kind of merit badge from them sent to me in the mail. But so it's incredible though. And fortunately, my conclusions that I was speaking to earlier about that are on my one pagers that I have in the front, they're all derived from my own research in my own head. They're not AI driven, and I probably, I guess some people would have cross-referenced them to say, does anyone else see it this way? But hey, it's my book. I wrote it the way what I think people should be doing.
Yeah, I've used Grammarly for years. I love it, and it's cool how it sits on top of everything.
Yeah, I know.
Mobile devices, and it works everywhere. Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever. I mean, it works.
You just have to make sure you have the horsepower in your computer to run it everywhere. But I've never had a problem with it, except, like I just said, is when you start saying, wow, am I really that bad? But it actually does. It comes up with some, you think you have a profound statement, and then you write it, and then it says, yeah, but did you think about saying it this way? Wow, yeah, it is better. So that's cool.
Well,
and I think that's a very proper use of AI. Conversely, I get a chuckle when I see, these ads on, whatever social media that says you can write a novel this weekend with, Robo AI. And I'm like, really? That's your goal, to write a novel this weekend? I mean,
yeah.
And it's just like, okay, I'm sure that's going to be a really good piece of quality work there.
Well, I'm telling everybody, that I zig when they zag. Okay, what does that mean? Like right now, what's the zag?
Mm-hmm.
The zig, right? I think doing live events, meeting people in person is going to really blow up. I'm working with a guy right now. He is literally, so he's supposed to be, he's kind of a salesman for this tech company, but he's a techie.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard to get the techie out of him. And so they're trying to figure out how to get more business. And I'm saying, do more live stuff. And he lives up in San Francisco. And so I did a search, and there's a super large security technology conference, 4-day conference in San Francisco this week. So I coached him up. He drove out yesterday and for the registration and the networking event. And I told him how to work the floor. Got 4 leads before lunch, and he wasn't there very long.
Right.
Met his daughter for lunch, went back for the reception, got 7 more names.
Yeah, and I think you posted something
Yeah.
earlier on in that, and you're 100% right.
Yeah, and so this guy's got 11 qualified people to talk to now in one day, and like literally half a day.
Right.
And it's his first time doing it, and we spent 30 minutes reviewing it. And so I'm gonna turn him into a beast, because that's the zig to the zag now. Everybody's pummeling each other with AI. It's like, oh, look at this, a human. How refreshing.
It's comical. Yeah, but you're right, and actually, you and I need to talk about that, because I'm actually going down the path now of creating a workbook, a methodology, and then going out on the speaking tour with all of this, and it's very interesting to me. I love doing that type of work, but I am, with regards to the industry, I'm a babe in the woods. But I love speaking on stage, and I do have something to say. Whether someone wants to hear it or not, that's up for the audience to decide. But it's funny that we've arrived at this place that you've just mentioned, and you're right. There is a world of people out there that want this instant, TikTok AI search, and they want the inputs that way, and they want the outputs that way. And I'm hoping that what you just said really translates into the fact that human one-on-one, man, I can't believe it sounds like we're on a sci-fi show, but human interaction at a show on the floor, talking and seeing people's reactions and interpreting them, has value again, because it really needs to come back.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about like social media marketing. A friend of mine, he wrote a book. He was talking about it on LinkedIn just 2 weeks ago. Mark Schaefer, he's been on the show a couple of times, and talking about social media marketing. I'm like, well, most people are not sociable. They misuse media, and they're no good at marketing. So it's all a mess. And even so, before all this took over, I've been going to trade shows for almost 30 years, and people show up, they party, they're hungover, they're sitting at their booth, they have crappy messaging, crappy offers. So, if you're just, they say in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
That's right.
So if you're just not shitty, you'll do well. So
right. How many stress balls can you collect in a weekend?
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. And once again, going back through the years, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been to Vegas, going to the old Comdexes and all those types of things. And you're right. There's a lot of the same thing. And you said it much more eloquently than I, but you're right. It's social media, they're not social, and they don't know media. I mean, and I'm, I can be guilty of this. It's kind of like, I have a Canva license, therefore I am a media person. I know colors, and it's like I don't know if I know what I'm doing here. So there's a lot of experimenting, and what happens is your potential customers are also your guinea pigs to see if your marketing plan works, which probably shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, but that's what's happening. I think, in a strange way, that's also happening with the AI world. I mean, there's companies that are just playing around, and part of my book is about, the risks associated with, playing around or not thinking your company has people using AI. And it's astounding to me, when I was doing my research, is how many companies think they're not using AI, like at a very high level, where leaders of companies say, oh, we're going to get into that next quarter, we're going to get into that next year. And I'm like, you're nuts if you think your employees are not using AI. I mean, it's just a fact. And it's one of the first steps I mentioned to people. And once again, it's one of the one pagers I was mentioning, is if you have not taking an official corporate step in the direction of AI, the first thing you need to do is get a policy out the door for your people for the proper use of AI at your company. What's allowed, what's not
So
allowed.
what does that mean? Because I mean, I'm out of the loop in that regard.
Sure.
I'm not an employee. I don't have anybody telling me what I can and cannot do.
Right. Okay. So I'll explain. Let's just say you're, any company of more than a handful of people. Let's just say you're replying to a request for proposal, for example. In the old days, you used to burn the midnight oil, making, your best deck for a presentation or whatever the proposal's about. Well, if you're a company that does not have a policy on how to use AI, well, those individuals who are working on that proposal now are going to be using AI. The request is going to have, how to answer these 20 questions. Your team, if you don't have a corporate policy, are definitely going to be using AI to get better answers. And the real risk comes in from, two sides of a coin here. And the two sides of that coin are, and this is without obviously a policy, and I'll get to that after I explain what the issue is. There's two sides. First, the consumption of AI generated answers. AI is not truly intelligent, guys. It's feeding off of information, and it could be looking at a cesspool of information, or some blend of great and bad data. So if people are rushing or scrambling to the finish line because some deliverable is due, and they're using AI, and you don't have a policy that says, hey, you can use AI for this, but your supervisor has to review it, or it has to go through these checks and balances, or it has to go to legal first, or whatever it may be, then you're going to get bad answers, or going to get potentially plagiarized, or maybe even socially irresponsible violations of privacy law answers put into your submission. But the even bigger danger is that in most AI engines, you can upload information to say, hey, answer these questions in the style of our favorite deck that we just did last month, or whatever it was. Well, guess what? Your team just inadvertently gave your deck to the world, to the AI gods, and now your stuff is going to be consumed for the next, by your competitors. I mean, obviously, I got from point A to point B quickly there, but the issue is the consumption and distribution of intellectual property that may not be yours, or that is yours that you didn't want out there. So what a simple policy. So let's just say you don't have a corporate AI engine that you've adopted and implemented. You just need to come up with, and you can get them online. People can contact me, contact your attorney, a policy that just tells your staff, look, this is what you're allowed to do with AI. This is what you can't do. You can't load our stuff up there. You can't point one of our corporate hard drives so AI can see it. And you come up with what are the acceptable uses, and then what are the consequences of going against that policy. And that's just a starting point.
So how is that any different, really, than just a human going to Wikipedia, copying and pasting? I mean, or plagiarizing from somewhere else. Okay, a computer did it. I mean, so AI just lets them be lazy, more efficient in their laziness.
Well, you know what? But you just touched on another point there, is that, and I'm not trying to get any one generation angry at another generation here, but with the advancement of all these super tools, people are becoming lazy with their review process of questions. And to use your example, if I went out and I did a search, yeah, you are correct. I could do a full, just cut and paste, drop it in, of course. But I think in the old days, and the old days might be just a couple of years ago, but they certainly count for you and I in the old days, you did put things down on paper, and you did think about them, and then you did, sew them into an answer that fit your personal style or your team style or whatever. Now there is this perception that AI can not only give you a better answer, but then, as we were talking earlier, can also say it better than you. And then there's this attitude that I'm witnessing, that is kind of like, who am I to challenge the answers that have been developed? And so if you have a bunch of people doing it, it's kind of I didn't get a sentence. I got a full story with a beginning and end and answer and indentation and, bold facing fonts. And this is beautiful. And the laziness factor, your words, not mine, is contributing to this. And so that is why it's different. And the other thing is that AI is much more capable to not come up with someone else's answers. It's coming up with the answers to the questions that you specifically ask. I mean, it's going to the same sources you may have gone to a few years ago, but then it's turning them into exactly what you wanted to hear. And it just becomes one step closer to saying, you know what, this is good enough. Who's going to really read this thing this deep? This is good enough. And it's we're in my opinion, we're almost at a scary epidemic level of there's thousands of AI apps out there right now, thousands. They do everything. I mean, where's it going to end? I don't know. I don't know. I wish I could. Maybe that's the next book. I don't know where it's going. And look, there are a lot of great places it's going, but this is not the time to implement AI tools in your world just for willy-nilly reasons. You do need to think about it because they do have far-reaching ramifications or potential ramifications.
Yeah. All right. So that's all the scary stuff. So what are some good ways to use it?
Wow. Okay. So it's interesting. I was speaking with someone recently. So I'll go specifically to the AI and the CRM world. Okay. So in a nutshell, if someone here doesn't know what a CRM system is, it's just an advanced system that helps you manage your relationship with your potential customers or your active current customers or your potential customers, and then how to reach out to them best, and when you can contact them, when you should contact them, who to help you out with future business development activities. What AI is able to do now is, and there's a, and I'm just going to read down a little quick list here. Think about these things. Automation of email. So I have seen several tools made by either one of the humongous CRM vendors that are out there, because they all have their own AI widgets that they will gladly sell you to. But there's also piles of third-party vendors out there. But automation of emails. So old CRM systems would have said, hey, this week you need to contact Bob, about XYZ. Well, now the systems with AI built in them will do the same thing, except they will also come up with a script that says, this is Bob's company in the news. Let's throw a sentence in there about how great they're doing or their problems and how our solutions or our products align with that. And they'll script the email will literally be written for you. The same way you and I were talking earlier about how grammar checks work. Now they're writing emails for you. They're also, able to give you live account insights, once again, based upon the same, constantly searching the world and then adding it into your records of what's going on with, if you sell, airline parts, and they'll tell you what airline based upon their performance of who probably needs what. It can also help you with lead conversion, meaning who is the best target based upon the temperature of their industry or the world or whatever they're working in. So the analytics, the same way I was saying, you use AI to do research to ask the best question. It's basically doing the same thing. How can you? Here are your 50 clients that you've been working on this year. Which one, based upon the temperature of their world, is the best target for you right now? And it can look at potentially limitless amount of factors. Obviously, the same thing that goes without saying, then it does lead scoring, and then also can help you out with your retention of those customers. But there's a few other things behind the scenes that are not so, what I would say, sexy, but we were speaking a bit ago about how AI is only as smart as the data that it looks at. AI can actually help you, excuse me, AI can actually help you clean the data of all of your systems. And if you think of any larger scaled CRM system, it's not uncommon for them to have access into your email systems and your financial systems and your marketing systems. Well, it can, AI can, and there are several tools out there that do this, that can basically standardize the taxonomy for the consumption of your CRM system without actually changing it in the core system. So that's a huge plus because, well, for obvious reasons, you don't have to go through the big data problems that just a little while ago you had to, and those were the really big pickups are. And what I would tell somebody, and also to make it a little easier, so going away from AI being like Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Terminator kind of AI, um, you know there are easy ways to step into AI at your firm, at your company. And what I say is that firstly, let's do it for business reasons, meaning don't put AI in a place that is kind of like, let's put it there and see if it sticks to the wall. You really need to look at things and say, how is this going to maximize my profits, or whatever your ultimate goal, but I'm assuming profits is probably up there. See what is hurting, where are you bleeding money, what is really broken, and can something in the AI world fix that? And that's the easiest way to start, because you're going to get support if you fix that problem. And if you just do something that's cool, well, as an tech guy only, cool things don't necessarily work. They might be cool to you, but not to everybody.
Well, look at the internet, man. Everything's automatic now. That Bill Gates told us in 1995 when he wrote his book and came out with Windows 95. I mean, my refrigerator talks to me, plans all the food. It's just, the internet just made everything better.
Yeah, everything's better now. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Actually, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I saw one of those fridges over the weekend, I think at Lowe's. This Samsung fridge that's taking pictures of the inventory of the inside of your fridge. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, really? Did we ask for that? But yeah. So there's many things it can do well, and the format of both of my books, and of the methodology, which is still a work in process right now, is as a advisor, as a consultant. When I speak to you, obviously I'm going to ask you questions, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to develop answers for you. But as an author of a book, it would be so presumptuous of me and pompous of me to say these are the 10 things you have to do. But what I can do, because I don't know you, I don't know what's going to work in your world, so I'm not going to tell you what to do. But what I can tell you is I know what's not going to work, and that's really the path that I've been going down, and it's been working for me, and hopefully working for the people who read the books.
So part of me is wondering, like, it seems like AI can just, kind of tongue in cheek, but fix everything. I mean, as it gets better, I mean, like you were talking about loading up, give me answers in this voice.
Mm-hmm.
I will never get coaching or therapy from Jordan Peterson, right? Obviously, I'll never get coaching therapy from Freud, but I could say, hey, I'm a 54-year-old male, blah, 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 father, grandfather, business owner. Here's my issues, give me some advice combining Freud and Jordan Peterson. And it's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's going to keep getting better. So, if I'm a CEO of a company, we may already be there, but I mean, we're getting closer. Why wouldn't the CEO of a company just say, hey, I need a, CRM that does this, that, and the other at this price point, what should I buy?
Right.
Are salespeople going to be unneeded, unnecessary?
I think so. To the first part, getting advice from Freud, I would have to say it's probably out there already. I've never looked for that, but certainly you can go to Mid-Journey or Dolly and say, paint me a painting of my dog in the style of Picasso, and you're damn right it will. I think the misstep in what you just said was the value of the proper question, or your scenario assumes that the CEO understands what's actually wrong. And I understand that they feel the pain, but the value of a consultant, and I would like to believe that many salespeople are hmm, trying to sell or implement the proper tool for their client. Now, obviously, that
Well, they're not though. Most salespeople are not very good. They're not very intelligent. They're money motivated, and or they're under pressure from the boss to sell whatever is
you're
on.
right. And I was speaking theoretical, and I'm glad you said
Yes.
what you said. But no, you're right. So and that's, I guess, I'm sure this is true about yourself. I know it's true about myself, is that I- I've learned through the course of years about the price to be paid by giving someone an answer you think was good for everybody, as opposed to finding out the answer and the solution that is actually good for someone, and then going down that path, because I get the enjoyment of doing things the right way as opposed to the wrong ways. And that's also why I try to stay completely unbiased about deployments and installations. I don't get into those worlds, because yeah, you're right, sales numbers start taking over. That's one of my big beefs with most of the big guys out there, is that you buy $1 million tool and you tell them, hey, I want to report things better, can you help me out with this? And that core tool can do it, and they're like, no, wait a minute, you need the wizard reporting Merlin number 7, and it's an extra $400,000 a year, and it's a never ending process. So I think your scenario is, yes, the world will get better at those types of tools and getting the right types of answers. That said, and that's also why I think I say that, or not that I say that my books are about a technical topic, but they're not technical, because, and where I'm going with this is that normally, I don't know, 8 times out of 10, the problem with people's CRM systems are not the technical tools or the processes that people are using. And you push a bad process into AI, you push a bad process into CRM, you're just going to get a crappier, faster working bad process. So it takes someone with know-how and intelligence and ethics to look at all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not going to go away. Now, it might go away for a short term, because I think the pendulum always swings back and forth, back and forth. But I would like to believe that the knowledgeable people that know how to fix things, look, the old adage is, you don't pick a tool to solve a problem, you fix a problem, and then, or you determine how to fix the problem, and then go out, pick a tool. You don't do
Yeah.
it the other way around, and that's no different with any of these things.
Yeah.
You just have to have a very, look at your world, your corporate world, with scrutiny.
Yeah. Which can be tough.
Oh yeah,
I mean, we're
absolutely.
all biased,
Of course we
right?
are.
And so, yeah, I guess like anything, it's the answer is always a blend. Use some tools, trust but verify. I'm seeing AI from a sales and marketing perspective, and it's funny. It's I saw on a subreddit for marketing. This guy posted that, hey, I'm using this and blah blah blah, probably like an Apollo or an Instantly, and he says, I bought my domains, I warmed them up, I'm sending emails, and they're ending up in spam. Why is this happening? And people are like, wow, you're spamming people, and Google is doing its job and routing the emails into the spam folder. Like,
Yeah,
what are
not
you
weird,
complaining?
not crazy.
Like, what are you complaining about? No, no. But it's like, so, I see it from the marketing perspective. And so I screenshot it and shared it. And this one guy's like, he's just not doing it right. Alex Hormozy even talks about how he grew like this. I'm like, well, here's the deal with Alex Hormozy. He was leading edge. Yeah, when he did it, just like keyword stuffing used to work. You could
Mm-hmm.
rank your page #1 on whatever search engines were 25 years ago by
You
keyword
remember those?
stuffing.
I remember those days clearly. You're right.
Yeah. And so Alex Hormozy was first. He succeeded with it. I bet he's doing it a lot less now,
Right.
but now he's like the general store owner in San Francisco in 1849, selling picks and shovels.
Right.
He's like, well, I went up there, I found a mine, got some gold, the vein ran out. All right, now I'm going to sell picks and shovels to others. It's like that's what I think he's doing.
Yeah.
But people are defending it. You're just not doing it right. Okay, yeah, I'm not sending fake emails right. Please enlighten me.
Yeah, well, you
You
know
know,
what? I wonder, and I have not given this thought except for now that you just brought this up, though. But I wonder if, one of the things that I also discuss is about the improper setting of expectations. There are some people who think AI is amazing and can do no wrong, and then there's other people that are very, very suspect of it. And I wonder if those people that you were just talking about who are clearly sending out spam, but since AI is involved, they somehow have thought that it becomes okay again. You know what I mean? It's like they haven't really taken a step back and say, wait a minute, this is still the same process, just a new tool running it for me, as opposed to, no, this is AI, this must be okay. And I think there is a level of, go back to what we were saying earlier, there's a level of laziness to saying, wow, there's this new super way of me hitting all these people. There are AI services out there now, many of them, I can think of a few right off the top of my head, that will get you all the email addresses of anybody you ever wanted to get. And it's just mining everything and deriving addresses, and they do it very well. Doesn't mean you should have.
well, their argument too is, and I get it. They're kind of splitting hairs because it's like, in a legal sense, it is not spam because you are allowed to send B2B
Mhm.
emails, offers, solicitations, as long as the subject is accurate and you identify yourself, your contact information is included, and there's a means to opt out. So, okay, legally, that is not spam. But it's like beauty, spam is in the eye of the beholder. And so if enough people opt out, unsubscribe, report it, block it, the search engines, the ESPs, they know they're going to route that stuff.
Sure.
So for all practical purposes, it is spam. And so, but yeah, they feel like it's just they know that it's spam. They're just assuaging their guilt by saying, "Oh, other big guys are doing it, and legally it's not. So if I just get a 0.5% and blah blah blah, and my
Right.
clients will pay for it." Like, okay, but I've just seen multiple companies not have success with this.
And I see it too. And I see, you think you even see it in LinkedIn and things like that. It's like, hey, I found your thing on, on the site, and you really look like an interesting person. Well, sometimes that is true, but when it's true, usually you can tell. Somebody will say, "Hey, I saw you, on Wes's podcast. I mean, you were talking about this topic. It's genuine. There's no It's seemingly easier and easier to pick out, in particular, to the topic of AI generated text, that as opposed to, genuine human writing, which is kind of funny, because I can actually think of one AI engine out there that will, you can take AI generated text, put it into it, and then it humanizes it. It literally has a humanize button. It starts making mistakes, and you're like, I don't know which is worse here.
Yeah, well, I heard a thing about, they said David Copperfield was so scripted in his performances that he came across as like robotic and blah, blah, blah. So he scripted in a trip, like he trip on the stairs, going up and down. And they say it made him more human. I've heard
Can
statistics
you
like,
imagine having that problem?
yeah. Well, I mean, it is the old adage of, a rookie practices until they get it right, and a professional practices until they can't get it wrong. You
Never
know,
heard that, but that's a good one.
Yeah, so there's something to that, right? I mean, you look like Eddie Van Halen, Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, those guys, you see them, they'd pop a string, and they would just adjust in the middle. Like, that's a pro,
All
you
right.
know?
I like you even more for the fact that you just said Stevie Ray Vaughan, who is like my number one musician.
Oh, dude, so good. I lived in Austin for 5 years, and so there's statues of him down there,
There, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, every
Yeah, he's awesome, man. So yeah, I think so, going back to, where I went with this journey that I'm on right now is trying to dial back the wow factor of AI, and let people realize that it is just a technical tool. Yes, it is pretty special, and yes, it is changing, but you have to do something about it just because it's coming like a freight train and people are using, I mean, people are using it on their phone, they're using it everywhere. And just from a corporate sense of really, what can I do to protect myself? And then if I want to start going down this journey, what are the big things I have to watch out for? And that's really where the newest book takes you. And it's certainly not intended to be the answer to everything. It's not, but it will really ground you on what you can do just so you don't get in more trouble. And you know, I'll give you an example. And this is funny because I said this a couple times now, and I've gotten probably more emails on this one topic than anything else. And here's how it goes. I said, is there anybody who works for you that was an average performer 7, 8, 9 months ago, and then somehow, for no apparent reason, has started to put out more workflow, more product, doing things faster, putting out more of it, answering more questions for customers? And I said, if there's no other reason other than, motivation or more training or certifications or whatever, then you have to at least ask yourself, is AI playing a part in that role? And funny enough, it is many, many, many times. If in the old days, when your managing partner would come to myself or my team and say, "Oh my God, Monday morning we have to make this new last minute presentation. Order the pizzas for the weekend, and everyone's staying in and working." And it's not happened so much anymore at especially professional services firms where teams are pressing the AI buttons, and all these things are happening, insta magically. And if they're doing it properly, and
Yeah.
that system is also dialed in to their best products, their best products in their hard drives, purposely and with proper protection, then they are doing amazing work. But if those policies that we were talking about earlier are not put in place, you have a reason to be concerned.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's where we are.
look, nobody should listen to us. We're a couple of old grandpas. What do we know, right? Bah, humbug. Get off my lawn, you young whippersnappers.
Exactly right.
Go
I'm
back,
here. Yeah, I'm gonna go get the banjo and the rocking chairs. I'll meet you out front.
pull out this writing utensil and lick a stamp and write somebody.
You're talking crazy talk.
Kill some trees, right?
Yes,
Get a
sir.
get a physical book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Well, what's your next book? You got a whole series coming, right? You got this.
I
Has
do.
AI given you like the top 37 books you should write over the next year?
I have not done that search yet, and I don't think I'm going to do that. The next thing I'm working on is a workbook to go along with those two books. Obviously, to give you an easy way to start asking yourself, as a company or as an individual small business, what I should or shouldn't be doing, so I can start making proper selections for myself.
Yeah.
And then from there we'll see. It's interesting right now, and I'm enjoying doing it. I enjoy speaking with people. And you know what? It's a very interesting, dynamic way to learn what's going on, because you hear, once people know they have, they're not going to be outed, or and have problems, they speak, and it's there's a lot of people with the exact same problems, and it's unfortunate. And that was the impetus to write the first book.
Yeah. Yep. I've seen more issues from technology than probably help, but because it seems like the help is pretty good, but when it goes bad,
Yeah.
it's like being a cornerback, in the NFL. Like you can knock down 3 passes in a row, but that 4th and long they score a touchdown. You're
Right.
like, but 75% of the time I was great. And like, yeah, you were, and you missed that one.
Right. No,
Or
that's right.
even like for the whole game, but it's 0-0 in the last play of the game, they catch a touchdown on you, like you failed.
And to your point, I'll give you another little bit of something for people to think about. Is if AI, if you go on little bit of a journey with me, and you believe that AI is being used by lots of people out there in the corporate world. Well, if a request for proposal went out to, let's just say, a dozen companies, and let's just say half of those companies, even a third of those companies, take that RFP and jam it into AI and say, help me answer these things the best way, the likelihood that very, very, very similar answers are going to come up and be submitted is pretty damn high. And there, I've already heard of, I've not actually seen, but I've, whispers down the lane of things like that happening already, where two companies submit the same thing, or very obviously the same thing.
Yeah.
And so you do have to have human eyes looking at these final products. There's
Yeah.
just no excuse for not doing that.
Yeah. Amen. All right. Michael Hudlow,
Thank you, sir.
How Not to F Up series. So it's on Amazon. You want to go to a website or Amazon? Fine.
Amazon's the easiest. I'll send you a link, and I'll send everyone a link. But if you go to my homepage, which is Bitsy, or just contact me on LinkedIn, I have links to the books as well.
Okay. Yep. And I'm linking to that in the show notes. So
Thank you very
cool,
much.
man. Good to see you again.
Always a pleasure.
Hey, go sell something. All right.
Will do.